you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
And we're live.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. It's your boy, Kemper Woodruff, the Happy Hoodlum himself, and we have Zach, chest busting, halfway, half-hearted intro, but the man is still stronger than ever, Mr. Zachary Sampson himself.
Boom.
What up?
Shit, you know.
A little bit of a goofy intro with some nonchalant, dope shit. I can dig the energy. Anything stand out in your day before I go on a rant per usual?
Run it, bro.
Bro, weird shit happens in my life, and I'm sure it happens to other people, but not everybody really like looks for the deeper meaning in shit, or like chooses to look at things beyond coincidence, and I just don't believe in coincidence, you know? We've been over it before. I think about things in like not only vibration, and that vibrations that may have happened at one point in your life still reverberate further, and like as you unwind this like karma of navigating your habits of how you like mentally, emotionally, and physically act, right, and conduct yourself, you can run into that same person or same situation years later, and the shit will just trip you out, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had a really interesting situation because I ran into this chick that she used to come into the dispensary that I worked at, and it was like, man, I was mad young when I met her. I was probably like 19, somewhere, I don't know, late teens, right? And like maybe early 20s. And so she goes down, she's walking down the street, right? And she's just in bad shape, bro. And I just remember her being like way cool when she used to come into the dispensary. She was always just really, really nice. And so I see her later on, and like she's all fucked up, right? And I'm just like in awe, like watching her walk down the street holding this like fucking flower thing in her hand, like a weed that she had plucked. And she's just like having a full on argument conversation with it, you know? And she used to have like a nice figure, and she was definitely looking rough, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there, and I didn't necessarily like, because I'm outside my mom's house, like I don't really want to approach her because I don't want her to know like where I'm at. And I'm having this like emotional like conundrum because I feel like, bro, I got to do something, you know? Like she's just fucked off right now. And I realized I had these bottles of water in my backpack, so I ran and I like picked up the bottle of water. She was like way down the street, and I like walked down the street, and I had my glasses on, like the dark ones, so like she didn't even recognize me. You know what I mean? And of course she's like all tweaked out and shit. But I just gave her this water, you know, and I told her, I was like, you know, just drink this, you know. And she was like, the first thing she said was like, she turned around and she was like, don't be nice to me. And then she was like, you would give me your things? Like you would actually give me some of your things? And like it was just this weird thing of like someone that's been battered to the point where like almost like a hurt animal, how an animal like snap at you first, but then they'll let you like fix their paw or whatever if they got something in it.
Yeah.
I had this like connection, and like the whole time like she didn't really like understand who I was or like what I was going through. But that shit like fucked me up, bro. To see a very, you know, kind person that was kind of goofy just get like lost in the world and feeling like in some kind of way, like from our past interactions, that I'd like contributed to it in some fashion. You know what I mean?
Why do you think you contributed to it?
Because like I had I had talked to her for like maybe the period of like a week or so.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? 'Cause she was always coming into the dispensary and she was flirting with me. It's like when I was mad young too. So um, she just caught me at a time where it was like we kind of had a genuine connection. She was just a fun person, you know,
Yeah.
just a kind person. I could tell she was into me, but she had a little bit of an awkward style, right? So it was one of those things where it was like I didn't really want to date her, but you know, I hooked up with her, and then she like came over to my house one time, right? And after we hooked up, she had said some shit to me that at the time like struck a nerve with me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was too deep. It was kind of foul. So I was like, it was like too much, bro. I was like, you gotta go. You know, and she'd been drinking a little bit, right? I wasn't even drinking, but she was drinking before she even got there, right? She was drinking a little bit. She left, and she wound up getting a DUI that night, right?
Mm.
And from there, like I had seen her a year later, maybe a year or two later, right? And I know that she had a troubled past, like she'd been in like abusive relationships, all types of shit, right? And we'll just call her B, right?
Okay.
Just to protect the innocent, right? And it was just this weird thing of like I didn't really know who she was. I had like glimpses into things, but she was a very genuine person, and she told me some shit that was honest, but it was just too deep for me to deal with at that time. You know, and I was
Yeah.
like, hey, you gotta bounce. She did. So I see her a year later, right? And she's all fucking strung out and shit, you know, out in front of like the plaid pantry next to where the dispensary was. And like that fucked me up. So like in that interaction, I got her like some snacks or something because like it was summertime yet again. And I was like, bro, it's too hot to be out here like all fucked up. You know what I mean? And I told her that. And at that point, she recognized who I was, you know? So we had
Yeah.
this conversation. She must have either not been high or just been coming down or on some different drugs, right? She was in better shape at that time, too. Like you could tell it was kind of like the beginning of this phase, right? And then I see her, you know, today, and I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Like I saw like the progression of this shit, you know, and I know that there's momentum before I even, you know, met her, right?
Yeah.
Of just like abuse, but like who I know she really is, you know, like when she's not on drugs like that, is like a really nice person, you know, that just wants to like genuinely like be loved and be your friend, like very trusting, cool ass, you know, goofy person, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, like B was a different one, you know? And it's weird like how we can judge people, um, but in retrospect, like if you really never experienced the shit that they've experienced to become who they are, like I really believe like some of the most beautiful people on planet Earth are like the most trouble, you know? Like it was some crazy shit.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know, right, at the time, like the shit is deep, bro. Like I I kinda like I don't mean to smile or like just like thinking about it, but it's like I don't know, it brings an awkward feeling in me, bro. Because like some of the shit that like people will just tell you like it's really so rooted in them, right? That it's like they throw it out there like willy nilly, you know? And so I believe comedy is survival, so I just want to say that because it's some like low shit. Like after the second time I had hung out with her, this night that I had told her, Bamushka, you gotta bounce. She had told me after we had sex, like, because I was saying some shit about a situation I had been going through,
Yeah.
and she was like, yo, I was a prostitute at one time. And I was like, yo, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And that wasn't why I kicked her out. But it was just something like how she said it, and like it was like some nonchalant shit to her, the way that she said it, like very matter of fact. But I could tell the reason why she said it was like it was some deep shit that she'd been like wrestling with about herself. And I just kind of looked at this situation and I'm like, yo, what the fuck is my role in this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, just because I genuinely was like trying to affect it in a good way. But I think like when I first met her, I was in such a broken state. It was like I was just trying to kind of take, you know? And she was just like in a position where she just wanted to give, right?
Yeah.
Then the tables turned. The next time I seen her and she was all fucked off, right? I was like, yo, I just wanted to give to her. She just wanted to take, right? And then this third interaction was almost like she wasn't asking for anything, you know? And I almost felt like, although my natural inclination was like, I want to help this person, there was a part of me that was like, yo, that's their situation. And I was going to kind of keep it at like the arm's length, like, and not even talk to her. Just, keep watering some shit and let her walk by, you know? Then I was like, nah, I still need to do something, like that whole golden rule, treat other people how you want to be treated. I was like, it's too hot for her to be walking around and like, she might not have no sense to fucking do something as simple as drink some water. So I just brought her some water. That's not to like aggrandize, the simple act of giving someone something simple, but hey, you never know. And I'm just like, damn, that shit just kind of, it fucked me up in a strange way, bro. A strange way.
Yeah.
Now I don't expect everybody to relate to that fucking fucked up situation because that's some shit right there. But you know what I'm saying?
And I think like the majority of people in those situations would be like, all right, so they had that 1 week with the person, hooked up with them, seen them outside the store, would have been like, oh shit, that's that person. Maybe talk to them if they didn't look, like you said, it was the beginning of it, so maybe that what didn't look so bad, so maybe talk to them. But then go on about their day and not think about it again, and then see them again down the road and be like, oh shit, there's that person. Fuck, they really let themselves go. And so most people won't think about it on the depth that you're thinking about it.
Well, yeah, especially because it was like the first time that we ever like did anything. It was like I just happened, and this is some shit learning lesson, like life wise, bro, and really being attentive to your own character, right? Not that there's anything wrong with flings, right? But I was in where the dispensary was not necessarily like the best neighborhood, and there was kind of hole in the wall bar where a lot of like it was a ghetto bar, some hood shit went down at the bar, right? It was always on fucking fuckery. And I just happened to go next door, to the bar with the owners, right? And so I was just chilling with the owners of Green Gratitude over there, right? And I just happened to see this chick, right? And I just got hammered because they don't pour like little shots. It's like one of those they pour alcoholic shots, in
Yeah.
like a cup.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So I had a couple of them and woo! I was lit. And she was just kind of feeling me. So I was like, all right. So we hooked up in the car,
Okay.
and that was that, you know? And after we just fooled around in the car, I left that shit alone and just kept it pushing. And then, like, I guess like a week later, you know, she saw me again as I was leaving work and was like, yo, you want to kick it? And I was just like, all right,
Yeah.
And so it's like you go from really kind of like barely knowing this person, other than seeing like the way they present themselves, which is like a kind, fun, like bubbly, goofy kind of person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To then like they catch you while your inhibitions are completely down. You know what I mean? And my character just, I wasn't monitoring myself the way that I should.
Yeah.
In the way that I would if I was like sober, because I was fucked up. You know what I mean? And that's something that I stand on, not only in retrospect, but just some life shit happens. You know what I mean? Then though, I look at it and I'm like, but what role do we play? Like, would that all have happened? Like, would her life have spiraled out had she not got that DUI? Had we not kicked it? Had I been on my character? Because the second time, it was like I was sober. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. And I just look at shit like that in a different way, like how we affect people. And I'm like, yo, did I actually was I the domino that finally fell and like added a shit ton of momentum to this demise of a person that's a good person? You know what I mean?
No, I mean, like, obviously everybody has a role to play in somebody's life, and I think, like, you can't always be the positive role, right? And if you were, then everybody would be a positive role, and there would be no bad people and no bad circumstances. And okay, like, going off of, like, kind of how you believe, right? Let's
Yeah.
say you were that domino. Even in Okay, so you're the domino that tips it, and yeah, there's momentum pushing her in this direction, and everything that we do is like supposed to be a learning lesson, right? In a way for our spirit to grow and evolve and change, right?
Mm-hmm.
That still requires us to be responsible for those dominoes. We all have the tools. Sometimes, maybe we're not able to see those tools or utilize those tools because of the past shit that has happened to people, or the trauma, or that momentum may be too fast, right? But we all have the tools essentially. And so even if you were that domino, looking back on it in retrospect, it sounds shitty, but it doesn't change anything about whether you were the domino or not, except for makes you feel shitty because you think you were the domino.
Well, I feel what you're saying there. And it's like, I truly believe that, like, sometimes life, in order to be like a purifying thing, sometimes it's for you to forgive other people, and sometimes it's for you to forgive yourself. But it's not that you can neglect the lesson, right?
No, of course not.
Yeah. And so, like, just I'm pondering the lesson of
Yeah.
it all, because although people will probably not run into the same fucking situation that I'm talking about, what they will run into is like how how you break the character that you actually know to withhold, right? Like when you do know better, but you don't do better. You know what I mean? What can unfold not only in your life but in someone else's life? Because I also believe like, yeah, negativity works for positivity, so we can learn lessons,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not gonna like condemn myself over the shit, but I also can't look away from what I know transpired in that situation and really just go, all right, well, what is my role in it? You know, in the after action report of that whole shit, if I never see this person again, right? Just in black and white, what unfolded, and me knowing my knowledge of where I was acting from, you know, intentions wise and what was going on in my life, where I was at emotionally and mentally and all that kind of shit, you know, and really just take score of it. Just look at it like, fuck, you know, like what was it, you know? What is that nugget?
Well, you
And
can't know that because you don't know any of what transpired after. You just know that she had a downhill moment, right? What if she had that DUI and then all of a sudden, all right, so like now she has to ask somebody for a ride, right? And then that person does some fucked up shit, right? Or what if somehow like this one of the best people that ever she ever met happened because of the DUI, but then something happened because of that person. You don't know anything that happened in between these moments. You can't even say that you were that force that caused that downfall. Your role was what you were there and present for.
yeah,
Beyond that, like, and I get the whole ripple effect because that is a thing, but you can't know for certain whether your actions in those moments, those very few moments that you've had with her, were the reasons that she went down such a slope.
yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I
and
get it.
it's
You know,
difficult.
I just choose to look at shit and go, all right, well, you know, although some things might not appear to make sense, and like we can try and draw like a line of logic through something that doesn't that's kind of unnecessary, which is where I see you kind of like drawn from, right? Is that where you're coming from?
Explain that again.
Like we can see a situation and try to create a narrative around it, you know?
Yeah, and that's like
Or,
also the whole
or
idea of anxiety too. By the way, like anxiety is like creating something out of nothing
huh?
and then stressing about that thing that doesn't even exist.
Yeah,
And so
and I
you're
think
giving yourself like a form of uh like like anxiety grandeur. It's like you're giving yourself such a strong position and such a solid golden position in somebody's life that means like you're a turning point when you may not have been. When you may have just been like a pebble or
yo,
a
that's
grain
some
of sand.
crazy, dude. Keep going. You're on some shit right now, Zach.
Like that's just what it is. So it's like anxiety for me is like, okay, fuck, this person hasn't texted me back in 3 hours. They don't fucking like me anymore. What the fuck? Like, what are they doing? Are they ignoring me on purpose? What's going on? All this and that. And then they text me back and they were like, I fell asleep. I'm sorry, I wasn't ignoring you. I just was playing video games with my cousin. That's me creating a rock, a boulder, a mountain of this story when there was just a grain of sand rather than, okay, they're just not messaging me back right now. Now I'm going to go do my thing. And for you, you're like, I'm the pivotal point, this tipping domino in everybody's story. When in reality, you
Bro,
may just be a fucking grain of sand and what you're doing for them in their life is exactly what you're doing, and then you create this like, I feel bad because of this shit happened, because of something that happened after I interacted with this person. It's kind of the
Yo,
same thing.
you just blew my mind because, like, in my head, instantly where I go is like, okay, well, if everything's a grain of sand, you know what I mean? Well, then everything is important because it makes a beach. But it, I think the way that you're looking at it is absolutely the right way of looking at it, bro.
It's not
Like,
that like it's not important. It's that you can't know that it's important until you know. And you can't make a mountain out of a grain of sand if you don't know if it's a fucking mountain yet.
yo,
Now, if you knew people in that woman's life afterwards and they told you like, yeah, dude, after she got this DUI, she went through all this other shit. She couldn't drive, so then she got hit by a car, then she got hooked on this stuff or that stuff, right? Unless you knew that type of detail, you're not a mountain, you're a grain of sand at the moment.
nah, she'd already been on some shit before me. You know
Well,
what I
see, that's
mean? Like,
well, then there
100%.
you go.
But I just guess I never really put it together where it's like the whole like delusion of grandeur kind of thing, but like in negativity, like because bro, and I'm gonna get all astrological on you, bro. That's my Virgo moon, bro. My internal self, bro. I'm super. I don't want to say like critical, but like I keep a keen eye on my internal world, you know.
Yeah.
And I hold myself to like very high standards of accountability.
You're a main character. You have main character syndrome. When in reality, like this is what it is, right? It's like everything is affected by you and that's it. When in reality, kind of like this is how I look at it, right? When you're playing Red Dead Redemption, right? And you walk past some random fucking cowboy outside of a bank, you never think about that motherfucker again, right? When it
Mm-hmm.
and that's the same thing about most people in life is like you drive past someone who fucking cuts you off or something, you're never gonna see that fucking person again unless you follow them, right? it we're all kind of like playing our own video game, and most people are just NPCs that you might run into occasionally again, but they got, when they go away, when they're not there, they kind of fucking despawn. I don't know. Main character shit is what it feels like.
You know, it's interesting that you describe it in that way, and I want to go a little bit further in that. But on a side note, I took a personality test one time, and they told me that my personality type was Frodo Baggins. It like it was basically like it listed a bunch of like main characters or people that were like presidents and like random shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so that's interesting. But in terms of like the whole simulation thing, it goes back to, or like video game, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to like I almost see other people as me. Like I don't see
Okay.
them as much as a reflection of me, unless we meet in a state where it's like we're both present and I'm really like I look at things in terms of like the energetic state I was in when it came to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was so unprepared for this today. You know, like I got off of work, I was having a good day. I was like, okay, I was in a little bit of a rush, right? And I'm just chilling there. I'm not really thinking about it. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna be out here. And then I see this person, and I'm like, what? You know, like
Yeah.
that interaction just kind of like sidelined me out of nowhere, or you could say blindsided. But you know, like it just
Yeah.
it pushed me out of the game that I was like I was on a mission just to get home and do this podcast, you know, and it was like, hold up.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just so I could have this conversation with you, but
I think it's also, it could have been like, rather than being like, oh, what's the role that I played in this story? I mean, you also, okay. um, you see everything as like a sign, right?
Yeah, but knee-jerk reaction, I was like, I'm not fucking with that.
Well,
Like,
so where I'm
I
going
forced
with it
myself.
is like
Yeah,
you see things as signs, right? It's not
yeah,
always about like, all right, what was my role in this story? Rather it being a sign of like, fuck, like bring yourself back to reality, and maybe rather than being like, what was my role in this? It's like, damn, it could really just end up like that for somebody. Like I think about myself, right? And I'm like, how many different situations would have to happen to get me there from where I'm at right now? You know, or how many situations, what kind of situations, or could this happen to somebody that I really care about?
you know,
You know,
I think you're right in that, in kind of like the message or whatever, like what it was meant to do. It was almost like this moment of me recognizing, like, and accepting, like, people can choose less for themselves. You
yeah,
know what I mean? But at the same time, being like, A, how will you interact with them? Like, will you treat them as less than just because they do?
yeah,
And B, you know, almost like while I'm interacting with her, it's like I know that it's not for me to like change this in its entirety, because it
hmm,
takes out all the like responsibility and learning lessons and everything that person needs, and is being called to and through. So my thing was like, I just want to reaffirm that like somebody sees you,
yeah,
and that you're worth contributing to in a positive way. And like in terms of like how I fuck with you, like even if I never see you again, like when I see you and if you're down bad, like I'm gonna try and and leave you better than you were just because you came across my path. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Because that's who I am. But really, it's like one of the things I've been navigating in life, like mentally, is what people choose to believe for themselves and to do about situations. And I just, it's crazy to me how like the most loving and beautiful like people who are just here to have fun, it's like they just came in life for the party, get like fucked up, in the
yeah,
process. Like rest in peace to Nick Foster, rest in peace to Cody Harris, bro. That fucking same exact description fits them, you know, like my boys. And it's like, fuck, bro. I look at that shit. And I also look at like how we interacted, and it's not like on some survivor's remorse type shit,
hmm,
but just, I don't know. It put me in a strange state, you know? Put me in a strange state, man. To the point where it's like I don't really want to accept or see anyone as like broken, you know?
yeah,
I want to treat them as whole and just be like, I want the best for you. And sometimes that can be as small as like you just handing somebody a drink of water on a hot day.
yeah,
Just because you see that they fucking need it, or you're like, they probably haven't even drank some shit. Because I know, like, bro, when I did Molly, bro, I was fucking up for a long ass time, like days on end, bro.
yeah,
And I would not remember to drink water or anything. Like my body was like overheat, bro, and I couldn't even tell. You know,
hmm,
shit happens. Drugs are bad. Okay.
yeah. Okay, drugs are bad. Okay.
But yeah, I don't mean to put this podcast up to a very strange start, although we fucking have. You know what I mean?
I
I
mean,
think that's
this is a
the real
40-minute
shit,
start.
though. Oh damn!
Yeah.
I took down a fucking rabbit hole tonight, son. That
It's
was a
okay.
weird.
Having one topic that we talk about is pretty cohesive, so it's not like it's a bad thing, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's one of those things like I share it because I think a lot of life happens before we know it, like in the after the fact kind of shit. Like you make a knee jerk decision, and
yeah,
after the fact, you're like, whoa, you know what I mean? And when it hits you, like that reality of it all is like that shit can be kind of crazy, man.
yeah. Life is a strange combination of circumstance, and sometimes it ain't fun.
Yeah. Well, also like one of the things that I've been really navigating is like the the work that you put in, whatever it is, will be. This goes back to biblical shit, bro. It will be fruitful. Like if you do something like this physical world is a world of like effect, right? But it's born out of that cause of like your intention and where your mind's at and what you're doing as you're interacting with some shit, you
Yeah,
know? And like if you truly want like what's best for yourself and you believe that you can get it and all that, and you'll wind up doing the shit that will like make that transpire, you know?
yeah,
And you'll be successful at it. And it's interesting when you look at people as um like thought domains, you know, like God expressing himself through a different thought domain, and it's like this thought domain is given the power to create, you know. We're all sitting here in this like co-creative space, you know, and we're drawn to different people at different times that allow us to experience like stuff either as a roadmap of like where we're going or where we've been, or just a reflection of shit, and it's interesting because like this interaction I have, it was like a great example of two frequencies not really being able to abide in the same place.
hmm
Like as I'm doing this, it was almost like everything in me was like, this person has to go that way, I gotta go that way.
yeah,
And it's just a trippy thing because like it's not like I'm better than you, you know, on a spiritual level. It's like as things are going, it's like I just got to choose better for myself, you
mm,
know? And this might be the only sign that I can give you to like choose better for yourself or like give you an option. Because right now, I know you ain't got no water on you because all you got is a fucking plastic bag with some clothes in it. You know what I mean? You're
yeah,
sitting there talking to a fucking flower, you know? Like arguing, cussing it out. I was like, damn. And yet, snap right out of it to be happy. Like wanting so badly to be fucking happy and to be loved that something as simple as like being given a bottle of water was like, she like lit up, but I was like, yo, I gotta go the other way. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that was where it was like a very human level to me. Like that struck my fucking core of my heart. Like, yo, that's a beautiful soul, like a whole person who grew up in, like that's somebody's daughter, bro. That's somebody's daughter. Like it's deeper than all of that, you know?
hmm
And to see, it's like you see the hurt child in that person, like who they are in their most like base foundational form when someone's hurting like that. you know? And she was just so ready to be like, yes, like, you're a friend, you know? Like, she's on her journey, but like, you're a friend. I met a friend on my journey, you know? Almost like how a dog lights up when they do the, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
what's up, you know? And it was just like a crazy, crazy interaction for me to be like, yeah. I guess the lens I had to kind of look through based on my knowledge and experience with this person was like so conflicting, you
Yeah.
know? Like this person can be absolutely fun and cool and, you know, weird and goofy but fun, you know, and like just a beautiful soul on the inside that just wants love, you know, and is a loving person. And yet
Mhm.
on the outside, it doesn't seem like any of that shit is happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What a paradox. Like in order to it's like attracts like, you know? And in this world it's almost like in order to get what you want, you got to give up trying for it,
Yeah.
you know? And be like okay without it. And I think people that love so deep and live so passionate have a hard time not getting fixated on what they feel is supposed to go right for them, you know? And that shit can be so deep and it can happen like so early that it fucks up your ability to have like a good life for a long time potentially just because you don't know how to unwind that. And like so you just start trusting the wrong shit, you know,
Yeah.
just hoping that this situation will lead you to like someone that gets you, and they just don't because you need them to get you in order to get yourself. And that's not how it works. You gotta get yourself and then everyone else fucking falls in line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you really did drop a bomb on me with that whole like grandiose anxiety type shit, bro. Damn. And you know, this might not be the most eloquent way that I could have expressed this podcast because I'm a little jumbled up in my mind and just like that took me back to like, and I realized also I haven't been reading as much. My
Same.
speech kind of like falters when I don't read, you know?
Yeah.
The way that I think and like what I ingest is really influential. You know, I think our minds are highly impressionable. And so we have to continually seek high levels of intellect to express ourselves intelligently. And I think like books are just a great medium for that.
Mhm.
And I need to get back to it because I have been actively like using my phone less and less and less and less and less because I used to just ingest and take in so much like not only motivational speaking but like spiritual like sermons and philosophy and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And looking back on the podcast, how I was speaking, I feel like was more profound um, earlier. Where like as of lately, I've been like more in the tactile world around me, you know, navigating the world of effects rather than like going into my inner world. And so I've just been trying to unplug, like really use my phone like bare minimum. I haven't really been on social media except to like make a random post yesterday. Like I'm on way less than I was. And it's interesting the quality of time that you can spend with yourself, like an attentiveness within your own presence. The more that you unplug from, you know, these devices that capture our attention.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that in your life? Like, have you been on any kind of kick like that for? Because I know you're always trying to almost like do some science experiment with yourself to improve yourself, make yourself healthier, like observing your results.
Um, it's funny that you say that because lately it's been almost like not the exact opposite. Um, but I've been slacking and it's been hard for me to figure out what needs to tweak or be tweaked in order to get myself in the direction that I want to go. Right. And so like I haven't like I like you, I haven't been reading as much. I haven't been journaling. Uh my workouts haven't been the greatest. And I haven't been disciplined on my schoolwork the way that I want to be. And so like in all these areas of like self-improvement and self like growth and analysis and shit like that that I enjoy doing, they've slipped away and from somehow, I don't know. And I've been like really struggling on trying to like get that shit built back into my system. And it's been difficult and extremely frustrating.
Bro, I don't mean to be overly smiley, but I know that you're gonna be like, "What the fuck?" And this thought popped in my head. That's because it's retrograde, bro. This fucking astrology shit, bro. It's a long retrograde right now. My mom sent me some shit about it, and I was like, she hit me with this text about like frustrations and navigating internal things during this time. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Don't you put this spell on me, Mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Exactly. But, I've always believed in astrology. Like, astrology is a very real science, and people can discredit it all they want, but it is truly a science, bro, of the stars. And things correlate. But what I can say is, like, when that hit me, I was like, man, get out of here. But now listening to what you're saying, as I'm doing the shit that I'm doing, I'm like, okay, is that retrograde kicking in? You gotta
So
look
like
into
my opinion on like astrology, I think it, like most religions, it's been complicated for no reason. However, I when I realized this thought process about how planetary objects outside of Earth can affect the human body, um, it changed my opinion on astrology from like woo woo magic bullshit to like, okay, there might be something to it, but I do think that like most religions, it's overly complicated and possibly uh like most things that humans touch, made to be like so magnificent and extra that it makes people like, oh, that's fucking weird woo woo magic shit. Like that's way too over the top. But anyways, the way that I kind of like started thinking about it and that the way that it was explained to me was like the earth is like 75-60% ocean water, right? The human body is 75% water, right?
Yeah.
The moon causes high tide and low tide, right? And it creates waves, and it also is the reason that we're able to have an atmosphere on Earth, right? And so if something like that and as small as the Earth or as the moon could affect the ocean that is as big as the ocean, it could potentially have an effect on the human body, which made me think like, okay, that makes a lot of sense in terms of like that type of science. So it would also make sense that these other planets that are larger, even though they're further away, do have some type of effect. However, like I was saying, I think astrology, like most religions, is fucking made to be so fucking amazing to capture the person's attention, to keep them locked in on it. And I think that's what it is. It's like propaganda almost. It's all designed to like keep your attention and lock you in.
Yo, I think it's almost like whatever you like, the power of your belief
Mm-hmm.
influences the way it affects your reality, you know? And so there's like with astrology, a trippy thing that you can do if you ever want to kind of just test theories. Like read your horoscope in the morning for like a month, right? And see if your day pans out kind of in accordance with it, right? And then don't do it in the morning. Go a whole month and only check it at night. So you see it in retrospect and see if the theme of your day kind of matched up with it. And you'll be amazed at how it correlates. Like, and when I was little, like I totally believe in astrology. When I was little, my mom would like read me every morning my little horoscope in the newspaper before she would leave,
Yeah.
or like we would go to school. And it wasn't like every morning, but like if she had time and she opened that paper, I guarantee you that was what I was asking her, and that was what she was gonna come and like tell me about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe in astrology to the fullest, and I think it's like truly a science, like the science of the stars, and it does make sense of people's personalities and characteristics. Like numerology is another one. I think numerology makes a ton of sense.
You know, I have a hard time with that one because numbers are like man-made shit. Numbers are created with a pattern. That's the whole idea of numbers in and of itself. If numbers were a more natural thing, then I would have been like, huh, okay. But like literally the calendar having a leap year is a man-made thing too. And like all of these like okay, so like 2022 February 22nd, 2022. 22222. It's like, well, that's gonna happen no matter what because there's always going to be a repetition of numbers because we only have 10 of them.
But it doesn't mean that it isn't relevant. It just might not be relevant to everybody because they don't believe in it in a certain way and choose to see it a different way. And that's
I
what I'm
think the
saying.
only reason it's relevant is because it gives you comfort in something. I think that's all what faith is. Faith and like belief in some type of like grand thing is to create comfort in the fact that bad shit might happen to you. And that's also why I see the people who have gone through the worst shit are usually the most religious people. And the people who haven't gone through that much shit usually find themselves outside of religion, from what I've
think
noticed.
there's belief and unbelief is really what it boils down to. You know, and the reason that you put on it is all a construct of your own, but there is innate positivity and negativity because we live in like a polarizing universe, right? So we have to have duality, and it's almost like so you can experience that pleasure and comfort and good things are worth something, and you don't know the context of them until you've experienced um, the lack or separation of them. And that's supposed to feel like inherently bad to you because you come from God, and that's like the purity of energy. You know, that's the high, like Christ consciousness is like the highest level of energy and, you know, enlightenment. And it brings you back to the fundamental awareness of oneness. Like connectedness with other things, like this is the crazy paradox, draws you into the reality that it's all one thing because it's all connected, and it it's bigger than you, but actually like you're equal to it in a sense, in a weird way, and it's just this connection, bro. And that like in terms of patterns, like after doing DMT, patterns made so much more sense to me, bro. I was like, all right, yeah, it is by design, and I was like, I knew this shit, I knew it,
Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone should run out and go do DMT, but I'm just saying you recognize, you see some shit that you're like, whoa, okay, and then you can't unsee it, you can't unexperience it. You start looking at things like the Fibonacci sequence, and you're like, makes total sense. You know,
Yeah.
that whole sacred geometry, and like I hope that one day you just get lost for like months down a rabbit hole with it, and come back to me and be like, yo, because it's gonna be crazy when you do,
I
if you
mean,
do.
I don't know. We'll see. I've always wanted to try DMT, so who knows? Um,
Oh yeah, that's an experience.
but I don't know, man. Like, obviously, things have to have a design. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. You know what I'm saying? So, like, a fucking gun has to be designed a specific way in order for it to work. And
Well,
if it's
I
not
just
designed in such a way, it won't work or function properly. It's the same thing as like, all right, well, if life wants to happen, life has to be created and constructed in a certain way, and it's gonna find a way somehow, you know.
have you ever had an out of body experience?
Not one that is significant enough to like have left an impact in any
Because
way.
like having a significant out of body experience where it's like I know right now my consciousness, like who I really am, is separate from this body. Although it lives in this body now, I'm
Yeah.
actually I'm alive outside of this body. Like that realization in a very like visceral, tangible way is a next level experience where like once you've experienced that, it kind of makes you, when you come back for a second, be like, well, what is this, and it's always like that veil is so thin, and I think some people just become acutely more sensitive to it, as time goes on and they mature within this body, and that's like what they're seeking to get out of this life experience. I think that's when they develop into that, and there's so much beautiful things and aspects, so many aspects of life um, to experience, that people will go lifetimes just experiencing physicality, what it means to be human,
Yeah.
you know, before they ever want to transcend the human experience while in a human body. That's kind of my take on
What if you got to the end, and, like, you get there and you're standing in front of whatever, like, being that controls all this consciousness, flow of consciousness, con- flow of consciousness stuff that you talk about, and at the end they're like, bro, you made that shit way too complicated. Check it out, this is what it was supposed to be. You were supposed to just be living the life that you were fucking given, and you just kept making it all about this grand shit. You're just supposed to be experiencing what was so great about living to begin with,
it. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that's kind of
without
what it is.
having to try and figure it out.
I don't really think there's an end. I think there's just a beginning, just endless beginnings.
Yeah, but you all, but the way that you talk about it, you say you constantly relive this life until you get it right, right? Well, once you get it right, what happens next? Homeboy was like, Bro, I'm glad you finally got it, but it took you 400 million times to figure out that all you were supposed to do is just live.
I think that's a very cynical perspective to put on the creator.
I, I
I
don't think
think when
that's
you level
cynical.
up, you're just so happy that you leveled up that you go on to another realm. I think there's many other dimensions other than
Well,
this dimension.
this is okay. Let me fucking break it down this way. When I constantly like, okay, Josh, for example, right?
Mhm.
I was so hard on him about getting to the fucking gym and working out before he ever even started, right? And at one point, I was just like, all right, I'm going to let him figure it the fuck out. Then he started working out on his own, and he realized that it was so fucking great. And then I said straight to his face, I was like, see, bro, I've been fucking telling you this the whole time. You should have just been working out.
Yeah.
Who fucking, if we're designed the same way that this creator is, why wouldn't he be a little cynical too? Why wouldn't he be like, bro, come on. Really? You did all that? You were so fucking extra. Like look at try 500,092. Why the fuck were you doing that shit, bro? What's up? Just look at it. Watch. Turn around. Look at the cloud that I have pulled up for you right now. That was
Maybe
you.
it's like just for fun, bro.
You're doing extra
Just
shit. What if he likes
so
to
you
pick
can
on you? Like, why wouldn't he? Give you a little bit of a
no,
hard time, and then be like, "All right, get your ass over there. You're fucking next
I think
step."
undeniably God has a sense of humor.
Come on, yeah, exactly. He's gonna fucking do some shit. Why not?
Yeah. Like shit is just poetic in life.
I mean, he
You
tried to
know?
get people to kill their sons, and then was like, "Hey, got you, bitch. You don't gotta do that
Yeah.
no more."
So, I
That's
think
fucked
that's
up.
why, like you can in a sense, like I think when you truly recognize and live from a state of purity where you want to give the best, like things can go however they can go, but they
Yeah.
can't put down like the inherent goodness of your like journey. And you can like things may happen to you that you go through, but they won't like ruin you. They might, other things can happen, in terms of the outside world, like status, things like that. But they'll never like really ruin you. And I look at that with like, especially with like a lot of celebrities. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like they can go through some shit, and the whole world can speculate on it, and it can change like the dynamic of their whole life. But it doesn't take away from like the life that they lived and the overall like creation that came out of their being. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I look at it. But I think there's so much to be learned and to be gained, you know, um, from our experience. And it's so important almost that we share it so people can see, like, they don't have to, like, hide anything. Like,
Mhm.
you don't have to feel shame. Like, you can love your journey because you can change your journey. You can change your being, and you can try and do better. And like when you catch this person the second time around, maybe it's the third time around that you get them. You know, maybe
Yeah.
you were in a place where you were really trying with this person, but it just wasn't the right time. Maybe they were in a position where they were fucked up. Maybe you were in a position where you were fucked up. It could. There's just a million gajillion factors, but it really boils down to like love and forgiveness and acceptance and changing in the most positive way, so that way as you go forward, anyone that runs into you is just like caught with that love. Like, don't worry, you don't have to be afraid of that shit. Like, you can move beyond it, you can go through it, just
Yeah.
liberating. I really think it's just liberating people.
I like to live my life without micro analyzing shit. And if a life lesson is powerful enough, it'll show itself to me.
Yeah.
I like that way of thinking because then it's like I can enjoy the small things without having to be like, all right, well, what the fuck is going on in this moment? And why is it this and that and this and that? I can enjoy the being. essentially.
I think that's super powerful. You know.
I think so
And I
too.
think we're gonna end it fucking there. You got anything else to add? Because this has been an interesting ass podcast.
No, I'm good, bro.
Yeah, this was all across the map, out
Yeah.
of the universe. You know what I mean?
Fucking
All right, everybody. Till next week.
peace.